Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I just want to talk about Final Fantasy X. Now you might be asking yourself, well, why am I talking about Final Fantasy X? Well, something I've mentioned on this channel a few times, but I mean, maybe this is your first time ever hearing me say it, but Final Fantasy X is my favorite Final Fantasy game. I mean, the Final Fantasy series in general is not just my favorite JRPG, but just my favorite video game series all around. If you're curious like what my experience is with the Final Fantasy series, I've played Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy Tactics, 7, 7 Dirge of Cerberus, 8, 9, 10, 10-2, 12, 13, 13-2, and 15. So, but even with all of that, because I've liked every Final Fantasy game I play. I know a lot of people have their likes and dislikes amongst even the ones I've mentioned, but me, I've liked every one I've ever played so far. But 10 just has a special place in my heart, and I kind of want to take the time in this video to kind of talk about, I think, kind of some of the reasons why. I mean, for one, just Final Fantasy X just happened to hit me in that right spot because I was like 9.5 when I first played it, because I think it came out back in 2001, so that's crazy. I also do note I'm probably going to be talking about spoilers, for a game that's like 18 years old, but obviously, there's a remastered version, so that might be the first time a lot of people might have tackled the game. So I don't want anyone coming to this and getting things spoiled for them, so do know that ahead of time going forward with this video. But getting back to what I was saying, I was 9.5 when I first played Final Fantasy X, and I obviously played previous Final Fantasies to that, 7, 8, and 9, 4, and Tactics, but I wasn't really good at any of them. Like 7, 8, and 9, I made decent enough progress, but not like I did with FF10. FF10 was the first one I made the furthest progress in the game. To put it in perspective, like mainline story-wise, I probably got to the 95% mark. Basically, I got to like the final boss of the game. Once again, I'm talking about spoilers and stuff like that, so I'm just not even going to beat around the bush. I got to the jet fight. That was as far as I made it, because I was younger, I was stupid, and I wasn't very good at the game for whatever reason. Like, that boss just gave me the biggest trouble, and I just never beat it. I knew how the game ended just because my cousin had beat it at the time, so I got to see the ending through her. It's actually kind of funny, obviously, I've talked about it a little while back, but Final Fantasy X, I got the remaster of 10 and 10 too, so I actually beat Final Fantasy X for the first time on my own, this year, so it's just kind of interesting, but nevertheless. But listing off some of my other favorite aspects of the game is, for one, I liked how the story is told. That's easily one of my favorite things, just because a lot of the elements to it. For one, the whole aspect of Titus starts off at Xanarkand, and he ends up in Spirit, and it's like, wait, Xanarkand got destroyed 1,000 years ago? So it seems like it's a time travel story, but as the story progresses, you realize that it's not. Obviously, you find out everything about the Fates and their dreams and Sin and Yevon and all of that, and it just blows my mind. Because I was like, it was like, oh my god, this is a time travel story, and then it turned out not to be one. It's so crazy. I mean, that's actually sad too, to find out basically everything about you yourself, as well as the people you love, and the Xanarkand you knew was just kind of a dream, I mean, obviously I haven't finished 10-2, because I haven't played it in years, so I don't remember a lot of the stories, but obviously a lot of stuff in 10-2, kind of hints to what Xanarkand was really like, and not just Titus's Xanarkand. But it's not even just that too, it's also the fact is that how the story is told, because obviously I love the aspect of okay, that opening scene where it's Titus looking out at Xanarkand after everyone's camped and everything, and it's that from that point on you're getting the story told to you through Titus's perspective of him reliving everything, remembering and telling you that story. And it adds this very interesting perspective to the story, because obviously you get his point of view. And one of my favorite scenes is just it's one of those things of once you know the story and then you replay the game or whatever, with the context of what the whole pilgrimage thing ends up being about, a lot of scenes have context to it. You're like, oh my god, that's so heartbreaking. Like for example, when you're at Ren's hotel on Mihen High Road, off on her own, obviously it's not till later on you get her perspective on that, but even just seeing that, you're just like, oh, I know what you're doing over there, and it's sad. Another great example would be at the Jose temple. After you finish, like obviously everyone's making fun of Yuna because she woke up late, got bed hair and everything, and everyone's laughing, but then Titus, future Titus, is looking back on the scene and he's like, it wasn't till later on I realized that I was the only one laughing. And it's like, in the context of the scene, you're like, what are you talking about? Everyone's laughing, but with future knowledge, you're like, what he was referencing is the fact is that everyone else is kind of putting on this hearty laugh, but it's just because it's the master sadness, because they know what this pilgrimage means, that Yuna's going to die at the end of it. Titus being the only one who didn't know, just like, oh, fun times and everything. Like every time the subject would come up, a lot of, and you know, the whole context of it, everyone would get super quiet because just no one ever told him the truth, because admitting the truth to Titus, who didn't know, it makes it already hard enough, especially for, like, you know, because this isn't the first time like Oren, you know, Waka or Lulu have gone through this. Oren's going through this before with Braska, and obviously Waka and Lulu have been through this like 2 or 3 times, you know, themselves. So just that aspect to the story that even like replaying it can still hit you to be like, oh man, like the context of knowing the story makes that scene make even more sense, you know? And even obviously just character-wise, just everything that everyone's dealing with. Like obviously Waka and Lulu playing the big brother and sister to Yuna, joining her on this journey if it means to help save Spirit, even if it's to give Spirit a calm just for a short amount of time, even if Sin comes back. Don't say it doesn't matter. Obviously, you know, something Yuna says to Titus. Obviously, Kamari playing the role of, you know, the silent guardian, but doesn't say silent forever. And Oren, the one who literally knows everything but isn't saying anything. Riku kind of like the little sister, even though, you know, she's Yuna's cousin, but still trying to save her, especially later on when her and Titus are like, oh, we gotta work together to find a way to save Yuna. Our main protagonist, Titus. It's interesting because I never really realized it, how much of a, not necessarily, well, I guess you could look at it as a trope, but kind of having like a simple-minded hero who doesn't really know what's going on. I mean, to be fair, in his defense, it's not like anyone explained anything to him. This world is foreign to him, so there's a lot of that, but a lot of times it seems like he's kind of an idiot, but he's got a good heart and everything. It's got the point I'm trying to make. But what I find interesting about Titus is he isn't like your stoic hero of like, oh, I'm silent and quiet. Like if anyone fits that bill, it's either Kamari or Oren, who are the more stoic heroes. He's kind of a jock, and it never clicked in my head. I was like, right. Because even like, think about when you start off in Xanargan, when Oren hands him the long sword, it's like, it's a gift from Jet, and it's like, he can barely lift it. He's never been in a fight before because he's an athlete. It's like, oh yeah, I play blitzball. That's all I really know. I mean, granted, to be fair, I think his athleticism as a blitzer kind of prepared him for battle. That's why he kind of gets so quickly adjusted to it. Like, obviously he kind of gets worn down at the beginning and he's not as, you know, adept at it because he has it, but maybe you can make the argument some of that is passed down, you know, from genetics from Jet. Maybe Jet was a very good fighter and it kind of translated. I like to think it's more so probably Titus's athleticism, which you can make the argument that comes from, you know, the genes from his dad, because his dad was a huge blitzball star. But you get the point I'm trying to make. So, but he's, you know, like I said, he isn't some well-trained soldier. He's not like a well-trained guardian who's been training for this moment or something like that. Like, he's just almost like some average dude. It's like if you took a well-known athlete and just put them in that position, it'd be the same thing. And I just never really realized that and understood that until I got older, and I still just think it's such a fascinating aspect. Other aspects I didn't understand when I was younger is Waka. So like in my head, I always knew, oh yeah, Waka, he doesn't like Al-Bhed. But it's not until someone pointed out, oh my god, Waka's super racist. I was like, holy crap. It never in my entire life until someone like made jokes about the fact is that he's racist. It's like, holy crap. Like, I would reference it, like the Super Best Friends play, they did an LP, and that was like a running joke about the fact is of how racist Waka was. I was like, in all those years, I never realized that he was racist, because I guess at that time it didn't really, I was like, oh yeah, he doesn't like Al-Bhed, but it didn't correlate in my head that that was racism. I guess I was just naive at that point in time and didn't really know what racism was. Obviously, you know, I'm older, more educated, so I understand what that is now, and I can recognize it, and it never clicked in my head to be like, holy crap. I don't know if that's something that's ever been tackled in Final Fantasies before. Like I said, I've never played every Final Fantasy, and even with the ones I have played, it's been many years, so a lot of those aspects that maybe there has come up before in even the Final Fantasies I've mentioned, but it's just a thing of like, I might not remember them quite as well, so it might not resonate in my head. They're like, oh, it definitely was in other Final Fantasy stuff. And I brought it up earlier, and I'm pretty sure I've definitely talked about this before, Blitzball. Hands down one of my favorite mini games in the Final Fantasy series. Like, I know some people don't like it. It's like, oh, obviously cinematic wise it looks so cool, but obviously when you play it's not the same. I don't care. I love it. I dump so much time into Blitzball. Even when I played it way back then as a kid, even now with the remaster, I dump so much time into it just because I love it so much. I don't know why. It's just like, it's mindless fun essentially. But even then, it's just, I mean, especially when you get like later on and it's like your team is beefed up and everything. Also, I'm one of those people that kind of keeps the OG team. Like, my entire squad is the Aurochs, the ones that you originally get. Like, from time to time, I remember in the original, I would get Waka to join the team and might use them from time to time, but I always keep like the core Besaid Aurochs as a team, and just always keep Titus in, and just, it just becomes sad that you just like annihilate any team that you go up against, because no one's good enough, especially when you got high enough HP to constantly do the jet shot over and over again. It's like, dude, you put everyone to shame. I'm also one of those people that as a younger kid, I would always like reset the game if I lost to the Luca goers. Like, obviously when you go to Luca for the first time in a Blitzball tournament, I even did it with this one. Like, it's kind of funny, like my first like Blitzball win, because like there's a trophy for that, is actually winning against the Luca goers, because I had to restart it like twice. I'm actually surprised it took me so little time, because that's obviously a very hard match. But I just, you know, they're smug bastards, and you want the satisfaction of that scene later on. Instead of having, you know, Waka holding the Blitzball, you want to see him holding the trophy and give it to Dado. So that's how I am, you know. And also, I've talked about this before, it also has one of my favorite swords in the game, and that is the Brotherhood sword, because I've made a whole video just discussing that. But what I love about it is, for one, it's design, because obviously it's like, it's typically Titus's like signature weapon. Most times you see him, whether it be like, you know, the original Final Fantasy cover, or like, you know, the cover to, well, the same picture is used on like the official walkthrough book, but it always be the weapon he has with him. And it's just like also the story behind it. Like I said, I did a whole video on it, so I won't regurgitate what I said before, but still, it's like just the history that Blade has, and just its stats. Obviously, the whole it having water strike on it kind of screws you up in certain fights, so you can't always use it like you want to, but still, it's a pretty dope sword just because of like all this added bonuses. But I have grown to appreciate his other sword, his ultimate weapon, especially because I managed to get a lot of people's ultimate weapons, as well as like the specific items you need to basically unlock the full potential of their weapons. This is the first time I'd ever done that. Holy crap, that is ridiculous, like how powerful those are. Because I think with Titus, ain't it like his is like a attack counter, like every time, like evade and counter is his thing, I think. Plus, like, there's a whole like triple like overdrive thing that's like, their weapons are insane when you kind of fully, I haven't gotten everyone's fully maxed. Like, obviously Lulu's is a whole issue. I don't even know if I'll ever really tackle that Thunder Plains crap with dodging lightning 200 times. But everyone else, I was actually surprised I ever got the one with Titus, because it's connected to that chocobo races with the balloons. That was such a damn hassle, but I got fortunate enough. Plus, I looked at some videos to be like, okay, here's some tactics for how to do it. Even then, it was just kind of a try and try again type of thing. What is his ultimate weapon again? I'll include an annotation to correct myself, but ain't it like the Catabog? Ain't that it? I'm blanking on it right now. Either way, I really like its design too, but obviously, like I said, Brotherhood Sword just has that emotional relationship behind it, and just, like I said, the history of what it represents. So. Plus, it's a water sword and it looks dope. Obviously, that's even before it gets to Water Strike, because that just adds even more water flare to it, but you get what I'm trying to say. It's also interesting, too, because I'm pretty sure, I mean, at least from my knowledge, is it Final Fantasy X the first Final Fantasy to introduce letting your summons stay out? Because I think everything else, because I know in 8 it was kind of a thing of like, oh yeah, like, you have to wait for the summon to go off like an attack. But obviously 10, I think they stay on the field. I think that was the first time, because every other Final Fantasy, it's like a one-off attack, with the exception of 13, because 13 kind of brings that back, but even then it's kind of a limited use of your summon, because, you know, your Eidolon's HP is constantly draining the longer you're on the field. It's a whole thing. Recently playing it on the remaster was actually the first time I had ever gotten all the summons too, because I had never gotten the Magus sisters before. So that, you know, like I said, a lot of firsts for me when it came to playing the remaster. Once again, I mean, that's the benefit of playing it many years later as a 26-year-old rather than a 9-year-old, you know? And obviously just a little interesting thing to just, it's kind of a 10 to 10 2 thing, but it's interesting to see how much Yuna grows. Like how she's very kind of like, very soft-spoken and very polite in the first one. I mean, in Final Fantasy X, you compare to who she kind of, like obviously, once again, I haven't gone through 10-2 all the way, but it's still kind of nice to see like how much her character has changed in that, I forgot how long is it between 10 and 10-2? It's like a year or two, but still, it's just neat to see that change between her, that she's a little more, says what she wants and kind of does what she wants. I mean, obviously, there's choices in some conversations that make her say what you kind of want her to say, but you get what I'm saying. Like, she's still a lot more upfront about how she feels about things and does what she kind of wants to. Like she probably doesn't feel the need to kind of be all like, because obviously she had the pressure of like, oh yeah, I'm my father's daughter. Obviously she took pride in it, but that's still kind of being hard. Like Titus said, like the whole aspect of having a celebrity for a dad, it's gotta be hard for you, you know, but nevertheless. So yeah, like I said, this video was entirely just me rambling about Final Fantasy X for no reason. I don't know, it's on my mind and I felt like talking about it, so in the comments down below, let me know your thoughts about Final Fantasy X. Is it a game that you've ever played? Like, did you play it when it originally came out? Did you play the remasters? Have you never played it at all? I mean, which would be kind of interesting if you never played it at all, because especially considering I'm going through a lot of spoilers and stuff like that. But nevertheless, maybe you're someone who's like, oh, that's interesting hearing about someone talk about it, but maybe you just never had any interest to play it. Maybe the Final Fantasy series just isn't your thing, isn't your cup of tea. Maybe just 10 isn't. Whatever the case may be. I'd love to hear, you know, your thoughts and your feelings in the comments down below about Final Fantasy X. I'd love to, you know, someone, you know, bring up some stuff and just discuss it with me, because I'm always open to talk about Final Fantasy X. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.